I was talking to one of you today, and he was sharing that the animals on this night are particularly still and calm. He's noticed that every Christmas, after he's fed them, apparently they lie down, not as they would normally on all fours, but actually they're particularly still, and all of them together, as though there was a special grace in the air which they pick up. It is true that animals on certain levels are more sensible than we are. They feel things that we cannot, so who knows what's there. What is certainly tradition, not quite sure it's true, it probably is actually true, and I think it was seen by Anne Catherine Emmerich that the little child Jesus was cold, and so was the Holy Family, and the animals kept the child Jesus warm by breathing on him. And it is true, if one looks around, that animals and little children somehow have a rapport amongst themselves. They get on very well. So that is something which perhaps is a remnant of Eden which we haven't quite lost. I want to zoom into more, however, with regard to what children sometimes pick up. There are children who are particularly close to heaven, and when they're pure and clean, sometimes things do happen. Over the years I've had quite a few experiences of that, and it does actually happen more than one thinks. Little children in very good families sometimes do actually have graces which are quite extraordinary, and then they do actually disappear when they go into adolescence usually. But they are precious, and it's not surprising because the child is coming straight from the bosom of the Blessed Trinity, and until their first grave sin they're somewhat angelic, so we must watch over them and love them in the Lord's name, and shield them also from what might contaminate them. I want to share with you this, which one of you helped me by giving just the other day, and I was quite touched by it, and it's true. There's no doubt about it, it's true, because the church authorities were involved trying to disprove it, and it didn't work. It actually backfired completely. So listen to the essence of this, and you'll see why I'm quoting it on this night in the end. There was a mission going on in this particular parish in 1903, and this took place. In the morning, many children had made their first communion with great fervour. They were asked to pray especially for their parents' conversion. They did so wholeheartedly. During the afternoon office, the adults who attended were scandalous, speaking out loud during the sermon and laughing at the preacher. Even so, they remained in the church to admire the splendid illumination of the altar. A missionary mounted the pulpit to make an act of reparation for the outrages committed against the Holy Eucharist. All of a sudden, an intense light shone on the altar, eclipsing the brightness of the 200 lighted candles upon it. With bated breath, the congregation fixed its gaze on the Blessed Sacrament, exposed in a tabor on top of the tabernacle. Suddenly, a 6-year-old girl exclaimed, "I see the little child Jesus!" The preacher commanded her to be quiet and told the crowd to get down on their knees. They did so. Then he wanted to recite the Italian word is used here, fervorino. That's the little word or two that a homilist might give even on a daily basis. It's not a complete sermon, it's a thought. So he prepared this, and he was about to deliver it. But he felt inspired, instead, to comment on these words of Isaiah. "All the day long I stretched out my hand to a people unbelieving and contradicting." His weak, hoarse voice became clearer and stronger. He himself declares that for 20 minutes he spoke eloquently and with a power he had never possessed. Back in his room, it was impossible for him to remember what he had actually said. Someone else had spoken through his mouth. Now, something happened. During his exhortation, the face of a little child, visible to all, appeared in the host. It was framed with blonde hair. At first, it had only the dimensions of the sacred host. Then it grew, coming out of the pyx. The child, with his arms and then his entire body, stood in front of the monstrance. His outstretched hands seemed to want to embrace the little children kneeling in front of the altar. His hands and his bare feet bore the scars of the Passion and were flowing with blood. Now that detail is significant, so retain it. His garment was white, strewn with violet flowers. A celestial light of extraordinary intensity beamed from the apparition. It lasted the length of the sermon. The missionary implored the parish priest present in the choir to ask pardon of his parishioners. He obeyed in all simplicity and turned to the people. Then he returned to the altar, and the miraculous vision, which had not yet been visible to him, revealed itself before his eyes. Trembling with emotion, he fell to his knees on the altar steps. The missionary then told the children to ask God forgiveness for their parents. They stood and raised their arms. Hindered by the ecstasy, however, they could not repeat the words he suggested to them. Nevertheless, the adults repeated these words one by one, promising to be faithful in the service of God. Invited by the missionary, the parish priest then gave a blessing with the Most Blessed Sacrament, and the apparition ended. But then another miracle took place. The priest's emotion was so strong that he was unable to withdraw the host from the pyx, to place it in the ciborium he had opened. The host detached itself, rose a little in the air, and descended into the sacred vessel, which the priest then closed. The faithful could not resign themselves to leaving the church. When they finally gave in to repeated commands, they did so walking backwards, their eyes still glued to the altar. The missionary wanted to celebrate Holy Mass the following morning. He was hardly able to reach the altar because of all the children gathered around. In their midst was a weeping 19-year-old boy who had seen the child Jesus only very vaguely, unable to distinguish his face. That was the reason for his sorrow. Without exception, all the faithful in the parish, and even some inhabitants of nearby villages, followed the mission exercises faithfully. From then on, went to confession and communion. And by the way, that's how a mission should be done. There's no point in giving a parish mission if they don't do the cleansing of the whole parish. The feel-good factor doesn't help anyone in the long run. So, eventually, on the last day, they have a Te Deum of thanksgiving. And lo and behold, as of the first verse of the Te Deum, the child Jesus manifested himself again, as he had a week earlier, in the form of a 6-year-old child. Now notice this bit, because something's happened in between. But he no longer had scars on his hands and feet, or violet flowers, a symbol of sorrow, on his snow-white garment. His face was beaming with joy. Now, by the way, remember that at this moment, because something of that could be happening in a large number of the celebrations in this night over this land. Child Jesus actually weeping because he's finding dirty, unprepared souls. We can in some way console him, at least here, loving him well, and only celebrating him, nothing but him on his feast. Now, the church authorities, of course, have to be alerted, and this happens. The archpriest is sent by the bishop, and he tries to demolish the whole thing with great skepticism and harshness against this little child, the principal one who's only 6. And here we have exactly what was said, because it was written down. Her name was Eudoxia. Tell me, Eudoxia, what did you see in church? I saw a little child on the altar. What did he look like? Was he as ugly as your little brother? My brother is not ugly, but the child I saw was infinitely more beautiful. Who do you think that child was? Our Lord Jesus Christ, true God and true man. But you saw this child within the circle of the host. Yes, Father. How is it possible for a child the size of your brother to fit into such a little space? I don't understand that, Father, and nor do you. Now, she was a very poor child. Her parents had very little to live on. He tried a carrot. He showed her 50 francs in 5-franc coins. Have you ever seen so much money? No, Father. Well, it is all for you, if you admit that you saw nothing in the host, and that everything that was said about the apparition of a child is false. I will not sell the truth for money. You may keep your coins. I don't want to lie against God's truth. At that, he backed down and actually sobbed. He realized it was the real thing. Something of that has happened actually quite close to us relatively in time, Garabandal. The main reason why it was refused was that the scientist investigating it was hostile. But then he, years later, made a complete U-turn and went public, as a result of which one, at the time, reigning archbishop or bishop and his successor went on board as well, which reopened the question, which is interesting because something not dissimilar is there. When they were in ecstasy, they walked backwards rather than turn their back on the tabernacle. Also, we see a Eucharistic miracle there on Sine. The principal visionary opened her mouth and the host appeared and was filmed. That's going one stage higher now than what we have at Fatima, where we only have stills. There we have Sine, and also ecstasies taking place, running backwards, up and down mountains, and so on, with eyes up in the air. There's no way a child can do that. So this is our God. But the children, each time it's the children. Why? I'll tell you why. As was said simply by the Curé Vaz. They are the angels of the earth, and woe betide anyone who damages an angel.